Hermite curve is a perfect example of the power curve in all aircraft engines. Go from rich of peak to lean of peak. The low RPM gives you great volumetric efficiency as well as good cooling of the CHTs. And the lowered CHTs are directly correlated to lower intracylinder pressure, which is very helpful for the engine. Mike Bush's graphic shows us the energy conversion efficiency of any aircraft engine. In a TN, the exhaust gases go on to drive the turbine and spin the compressor. During takeoff, the throttle, RPM, and fuel flow are all to the wall, and once in a cruise climb, reduce the RPM from 2700 to 2600. The TIT should stay below 1320 during the climb out. Once in cruise mode, you close the cowl flaps, monitor the TIT, and then start reducing the RPM from 2620 to 2500. And at 2500, you initiate the leaning process. The leaning process is fairly simple. Once you get the aircraft at altitude, in a cruise mode, reduce the RPM to 2500 and then start reducing the fuel flow from its current state to 20 gallons. At 20 gallons, then you slowly start reducing the fuel flow until the EGT peaks, and simultaneously you'll see the TIT peak because the EGT's collective gases create the TIT. And once that is done, you'll see the peak. And at the peak, at this point, you will then reduce it further to go down to lean of peak, which would be about 1.5 gallons or so. And then from the lean side, you can go back up by increasing the fuel flow and determine the peak from the lean side. Once the peak has been determined, then one can lean it down to 70 degrees lean of peak at 2500 RPM. And once that is done, further power reductions done with an RPM do not necessarily require a lot of modification of the fuel flow because it all automatically go down as the RPM is reduced. But it's a good idea to keep an eye on the fuel flow. If you want to fly at 2400 RPM or 2300 RPM, wide open throttle, that's fine. Once you do the leaning at 2500, everything falls into place with the 2400 and 2300. Now, if you want to fly at really slow speeds, like a normally aspirated engine would, then you can start reducing the manifold pressure after you have reduced the RPM to say 24 inches, and during that procedure of reducing the manifold pressure, it's important to keep an eye on the fuel flow, because the fuel flow in relative proportions will increase, which might cause it to go close to the peak. Therefore, a simultaneous reduction of the fuel flow is also necessary during the process, and careful monitoring of the TIT along with the EGT is a good practice. I have added the engine data analysis from the turbo-normalized flights, and you can see the impact of fuel flow to EGT, CHT, and TAS for reference. Martin Pauly has the best video on leading a normally aspirated IO550. My thanks to John Whitehead for teaching me the leading on a G36TN.